There's the reset. You can hear and see me still?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I'll get you to start. If you can just tell me, I mean, here in the city, the trend is certainly going in the wrong direction, on pace now to be the worst month ever. Can you give me your thoughts on that? What does this mean?
Well, it's concerning, obviously, and the biggest concern is that these new cases will eventually translate into hospitalizations, which eventually will translate into some deaths, and if not deaths, then some long-term morbidity. So that's what the concern is. I mean, the cases are one thing, it's the consequences are the other. And people need to understand that these negative things, the hospitalizations, the morbidities, the deaths, are lagging indicators to the cases. It takes some time to see those things manifest in our data, if they will manifest. So yeah, we're concerned. We're watching this very carefully.
That being said, you touched on it a little bit there, but the fact that I think a lot of people are seem to be, at least, and from what I'm hearing, people are saying, well, the cases are in younger people. We're not seeing as many deaths. So, like, tell me a little bit more about. Sure, that is, there's a lag effect there, but yeah. Why is it important for people to know a rise in cases, period, is serious, right?
It is serious. First of all, people are saying that we're testing more, so we're seeing more cases. That's true to a limited extent. But the percent of tests that we do that come back positive is still alarmingly high, which suggests that the penetration in the community is greater than it should be. So these are real cases, and real cases eventually become more cases. Now, it's true that the younger population are far less likely to suffer from this, which is probably why we're not seeing as many deaths immediately. But we don't live in segregated societies. Young people will eventually give it to their parents, who can give it to their grandparents, and so forth. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. I'm praying they won't. But I'm not optimistic about that. So we've seen in other countries like Spain, it took a while. It took a few weeks before that younger demographics infection bled over into more vulnerable populations, and we started seeing explosive deaths, and their ICUs are overcrowded there again. Elective surgeries are being canceled in Madrid. It might be a matter of time before we see that here as well. So I implore people to do not consider just yourself. This is not about you. This is about the community, the population as a whole. Everything that we do affects other people. If you're young and strong and can survive this disease, great, good for you. But your actions may affect the livelihood, the health, the happiness of families that you haven't met yet. So just do the right thing and eschew socialization that you don't need to, because it may actually be someone's life that pays the price for this.
How much of it is connected? We saw early on, like in the first wave of this, early on in the pandemic, the effect on long-term care homes was devastating.
Yeah, so it's pretty clear that in most Western nations, the bulk or a big chunk of the deaths was felt in long-term care facilities. Not surprisingly, those are the most vulnerable populations to this disease. Now, we think maybe we have made that segment of our population a little more protected this time around. I doubt it, right? I think we're going to see some bleed into those populations again. They remain the most vulnerable. And people will say, well, they're old, so what? So what? These are still people, right? And their lives matter. They have loved ones and so forth. And our goal here is to minimize human suffering that is unnecessary. So we have to prevent that population from becoming infected, and we do so by preventing everybody else from becoming infected.
Is there anything we're missing here? Is there anything that, do you think it's people that aren't following the rules? Is it people that are not taking it seriously because the hospitalizations aren't up and the deaths aren't up? So we're just testing more and we have more cases, obviously, right? Like, yeah. Is it people being ignorant? You know, what do you think?
It is. It's people being selfish. And by that, I mean, they look at the statistics and see this is a disease that is 99.5% survivable, which it is for a lot of people. But 99.5% of several million people is a lot of survival and a lot of death as well. That 0.5% fatality rate is quite high. So think about this as a population issue, not an individual issue. Stop thinking about yourself, thinking about the community as a whole. When that fatality rate and that morbidity rate and that suffering rate is scaled up to the whole population, that's a lot of suffering. We can avoid it. So just do our part.
Okay. Anything else you want to touch on?
Nope, that's it.
Thanks for taking the time, man. I appreciate it. Hope you're not working too hard.
No, good. Was it all right? What you got?
Yeah, that was perfect. That was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.